The war between humans and the Valari had burned across the stars for 10 long years. Whole worlds had turned to dust, fleets had vanished in fire. Neither side had gained victory, only more graves and broken ships drifting in silence. Far from the core systems, a small human scout ship broke through the clouds of a green planet. Its pilot, Aaron, tried to control the damaged vessel as alarms screamed around him. His mission had been simple: gather information on Valari troop movement near the edge of their territory. But the enemy had spotted him, and their weapons had torn through his ship before he could escape. The shuttle spun down toward the planet's surface. Aaron struggled to hold the controls. The engine roared and metal screamed as the ship cut through the sky. A bright streak of fire followed him down. At last, the shuttle crashed in the middle of a glowing forest, scattering smoke and broken steel. Aaron pushed open the cracked canopy and pulled himself out. His arm was bleeding and his breathing was heavy. The air of the planet smelled strange, almost sweet, filled with mist that shimmered in soft blue light. Giant trees stood tall around him, their leaves glowing faintly like crystal. The place looked peaceful, but he knew he was deep inside enemy territory. He gathered a small pack, took his survival knife, and began to move away from the wreck. His suit's sensors were weak, but he could still detect movement far away. The Valari would come to check the crash soon. He needed to find shelter before they arrived. The forest floor glowed under his boots. Strange animals ran between the trees, leaving trails of light behind them. Aaron kept moving, ignoring the pain in his arm. He had to survive. Humans had faced worse odds before. This was not the end for him. After an hour of walking, his strength started to fade. He leaned against a tree, his vision blurry. He thought about his home on Earth, the sound of rain hitting the metal roof of his old house and the laughter of his younger brother. That memory gave him a bit of strength to keep going. But he did not see the group moving through the forest behind him. A team of Valari scouts had found the crash site. They followed the trail of footprints leading into the forest. Their armor shone like silver glass, and their weapons gave off faint humming sounds. They were tall, slender beings with pale blue skin and bright golden eyes. They moved silently, almost blending with the glowing mist. Their leader raised a hand, signaling the group to stop. He pointed ahead where Aaron had fallen near a stream. The human had collapsed unconscious, his uniform torn and his face pale. The leader gave an order, and 2 scouts stepped forward carefully. "Alive," one said in the Valari tongue. "He is alive." They were about to take him prisoner when a calm yet powerful voice echoed from behind them. "Step aside." The scouts turned quickly and bowed. From the shadows a figure appeared. She wore armor made of shining silver and deep blue crystal, and a long mantle flowed behind her. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. This was Queen Siral, ruler of Valora, leader of her people, and the heart of the Valari resistance. She had come to inspect the border region herself after hearing of human spy activity. When she saw the unconscious human lying near the water, something inside her stirred. "Bring him here," she said softly. 2 guards lifted Aryan and placed him gently before her. His breathing was slow but steady. Cyril knelt beside him, her sharp eyes scanning the strange form of the human. His features were rough compared to the smooth skin of her people. Yet there was something in his face, something stubborn, something alive that caught her attention. Then it happened. As she leaned closer, she caught his scent carried by the wind. It was faint, earthy, and warm. For a moment, her chest tightened and her heartbeat quickened. She drew back slightly, confused. No scent from any being had ever done this to her. One of her guards spoke carefully. "Your Majesty, shall we end his life?" "He is human." "A soldier of the enemy." Sarah looked down at Aaron again. His hand twitched weakly. He was trying to move even in his sleep, unwilling to surrender. "No," she said after a pause. "Take him to the palace. He will live." The guards looked at one another in surprise. To bring a human inside the capital was unheard of. But no one dared question their queen. They carried Aaron carefully to their transport, a silver craft that hovered above the forest floor. Siral stood for a moment longer, watching the spot where he had lain. She placed a hand over her chest, still feeling the fast beat of her heart. It made no sense. Humans were enemies. They had destroyed Valari cities just as Valari fleets had burned human colonies. There was no reason her body should react this way. Yet the feeling stayed. When she reached the capital hours later, the great city of Atheris shimmered under the twin suns. Towers of crystal rose high into the sky, linked by bridges that glowed with soft blue light. The air hummed with energy from the great crystal core that powered the city. The human was taken to the medical wing under heavy guard. Volari healers examined him carefully. They were amazed by his biology, by the strength of his heart and the structure of his muscles. They had studied humans only from afar, through reports and prisoners of war, but this one was different. He had survived a fall that should have killed him. Saral watched from behind a glass wall. She said nothing while the healers worked. When they finished, they told her the human would recover. He needed rest and water, but his injuries were not fatal. She nodded and ordered that he be moved to a private chamber. That night she could not sleep. She walked to the balcony of her palace where the city lights reflected off the distant ocean. Her thoughts kept returning to the human. She tried to understand why she had stopped her guards from killing him. It was not mercy alone. There was a feeling she could not explain. A pull inside her chest that she had never felt before. The next morning she went to see him again. The guards opened the chamber door. Inside, Aaron lay on a simple bed made of crystal glass and soft light fabric. His arm was wrapped and small energy patches covered his wounds. Saral stepped closer, her footsteps silent. She looked at him, this being from another world, this enemy who had fought against her people. Yet his face looked calm, not hateful. She felt her pulse rise again. When he stirred slightly in his sleep, she took a step back, startled by her own reaction. She told herself it was curiosity, nothing more. She had seen humans only through reports and distant images. Now she could study one up close, understand the enemy better. But deep inside, she knew it was not only curiosity. Aaron woke briefly, his vision blurry. He saw a tall shape near the bed, shining softly in the light. He tried to speak, but his voice came out weak. "Where am I?" Saral's voice was calm, almost musical. "You are safe for now. You are in Atheris, the capital of Valora." Aaron blinked. "Valora? Then I'm your prisoner." She studied him. "For now, yes. But you will not be harmed." He tried to sit up, but pain stopped him. She reached out and pressed a hand gently against his shoulder to steady him. The touch was light, yet it sent a wave of warmth through her. She pulled back quickly, unsure what had just happened. Aaron looked into her eyes for a moment. They were bright gold, unlike any he had ever seen. He saw no hate there, only curiosity. He nodded slowly. "Thank you." Saral turned and walked to the door, hiding the confusion on her face. "Rest, human. You will need your strength." When she left, Aaron stared at the ceiling, trying to understand what had just happened. The queen of his enemy had saved him. Why? Outside, Saral stopped in the corridor and placed a hand over her heart again. It was still beating fast. She took a deep breath and looked out through the tall windows at the shining city. Something had changed the moment she smelled the human's scent in the forest. It had awakened a strange feeling she could not explain. The war had taken much from both their worlds. But maybe fate had placed this meeting before her for a reason she did not yet understand. That night, the Queen of Valora stood alone under the twin moons, her mind full of questions and her heart still racing, while a human soldier rested in her palace, unaware that his presence had already begun to shift the future of two worlds. Soft light filled the chamber as morning came to the palace of Valora. The sky outside the high crystal windows shimmered with the colors of two suns. The walls reflected the light, turning the room into a calm sea of blue and silver. Aaron opened his eyes slowly, still weak but alive. His body hurt, yet his mind was clear. For a moment he did not remember where he was. Then he saw the smooth crystal walls and the strange shapes of the Valari design, and it came back to him. He was deep in enemy land. A faint sound came from the door. Two Valari guards entered carrying trays of food. The guards were tall and silent, their golden eyes watching him carefully. One of them placed a silver bowl on a small table beside the bed. The food looked strange, glowing faintly like soft light fruits and thin bread that shimmered when touched. Aaron did not move. He watched them closely. One guard spoke in a calm voice. "The queen ordered that you be given food and water." Aaron nodded slowly. "Thank you." The guards left without another word. Aaron sat up with effort and looked at the food again. Hunger won over fear, and he took a bite. The taste was sweet and cool, not like anything from Earth, but somehow refreshing. He felt strength returning little by little. As he ate, his thoughts raced. Why had the queen saved him? Why was he not in a prison cell? He remembered her face for a moment, her calm eyes, her silver armor shining in the forest. She had stopped her soldiers from ending his life. That choice did not fit with what he had heard about the Valari. Later that day, the door opened again. The same calm, commanding presence filled the room. Queen Siral entered. The guard stepped aside as she walked in. She wore a robe of deep blue that glowed in the light. Her hair, silver like fine strands of light, fell behind her shoulders. Aaron stood, though weak, and gave a small bow. He did not know their customs, but respect was universal. Siral studied him quietly before speaking. "You are recovering faster than expected. Human bodies are strong." Aaron looked at her carefully. "You saved me, why?" Siral walked closer, her steps graceful. "Because ending a wounded soldier brings no honor. You were unarmed and helpless when we found you. The Valari do not strike those who cannot fight." Aaron's eyes stayed on hers. "That is not what our report said. Humans believe Valari show no mercy." Her golden eyes narrowed slightly. "And our reports say the same about humans. Perhaps both are wrong." There was a silence between them. It was not an empty silence, but a heavy one filled with thoughts neither of them could yet speak. Siral turned her gaze to the window. "You entered Valari space without permission. That alone is a crime in time of war. Yet I do not see the usual hate in your eyes. Why were you here?" Aaron told the truth. "I was sent to scout the border, not to attack. My ship was damaged. I did not come here to cause harm." Siral looked back at him. "You expect me to believe that?" "I expect you to decide for yourself," Aaron said simply. The Queen was silent for a while. She could sense no lie in his words. She had learned to read the faces of others, both Valari and human. His expression was open and calm. That honesty touched something deep within her. She stepped closer, perhaps closer than she meant to. The faint scent of the human reached her again. Her chest tightened. It was the same strange warmth she had felt in the forest. She took a slow breath and forced herself to stay calm. "Tell me, human," she said quietly, "why does your kind fight so hard? Even when your cities fall and your fleets burn, you keep coming back." Aaron met her gaze. "Because we have nowhere else to go. Humans fight not to conquer, but to survive. We have made mistakes, but we never stop trying to stand again." Siral looked at him for a long moment. His voice carried no pride, only truth. She had seen warriors boast, generals speak of glory, but this man spoke of survival and hope. "You speak as if you understand loss," she said. "I do," he answered. "Everyone who fights does." The Queen turned away and looked through the tall window again. Outside, the city glowed like a sea of stars. Perhaps that is true for both our kinds. For the next few days, she came often to speak with him. Sometimes she brought questions about human history. Sometimes she listened to his stories about Earth. Aaron told her about blue skies, oceans that stretched farther than the eye could see, and rain that smelled of fresh soil. Siral listened with quiet interest. The Valari world was beautiful but controlled. It had no open seas, only glowing rivers and crystal plains. Each visit lasted longer than the last. The palace staff began to whisper quietly about the Queen's strange interest in the human. Siral heard the whispers but ignored them. She told herself it was diplomacy. To understand one's enemy was to control them. But deep inside she knew there was more. Aaron did not behave like a prisoner. He helped the healers fix one of their scanning devices, explaining how human engineers handled damaged circuits. The Valari healers were impressed. When Siral heard about it, she went to see it herself. In the medical hall, Aaron stood beside the table, using small tools given by the healers. He showed them how to connect wires through a power node without overloading the energy flow. The device came alive again, humming with soft light. The healers clapped their hands in quiet respect. Siral watched from behind, feeling a strange pride she did not understand. When the device lit up, she smiled slightly. "Your people build with metal and wire," she said as she walked closer. "We build with energy and crystal. Perhaps there is more to learn from each other than I thought." Aaron smiled faintly. "Different paths, same goal. To survive and create," the Queen nodded. "Perhaps." As the day passed, Siral found herself thinking about the human more often. She had ruled her people for years, always calm, always strong. But now when she thought of him, she felt her heartbeat quicken. She did not know why, and it made her uneasy. That evening, in her private chamber, she sat alone by a pool of shimmering water. The reflection showed her face, calm but uncertain. She had always believed emotion was weakness for a ruler, yet this feeling refused to fade. She remembered the moment in the forest again. The sight of the wounded human lying among the glowing trees. The scent that had stirred her heart. It had not been pity. It had been something deeper. Still, she told herself she could control it. It was only curiosity. The human was different. That was all. The next morning, she called for him to be taken to the palace gardens. It was the most peaceful place in Valora, filled with glowing flowers and soft streams that sang like music. Aaron was allowed to walk there under guard. When Siral arrived, she saw him standing near a fountain looking at the sky. The light of the twin suns reflected in his eyes. For a moment she saw not a soldier but a being full of wonder. "You are not afraid," she said as she walked up to him. "I was," he replied. "But fear passes when you have nothing left to lose. Now I only want to understand." "Understand what?" "Why our people hate each other so much," Aaron said. "We both want to live, to protect our homes, yet we destroy instead." His words struck her heart. She had asked herself the same question many times during the long years of war. Perhaps hate is easier than understanding. She said softly. They stood in silence as the water sang between them. A warm breeze passed through the garden carrying the scent of crystal flowers. For the first time in many years, Siral felt peace. Standing beside a human enemy, she felt no fear, no anger, only a strange calm that she did not want to end. When the guards approached to remind her of her next meeting, she waved them away. She wanted this moment to last a little longer. Aaron turned toward her. "If we could speak like this, maybe the war could end one day." Siral looked at him with quiet thought. "Peace requires more than words, human. It requires trust. And trust is rare in war." "Then let it start here," he said. The queen met his gaze. For a long moment, neither looked away. Her heartbeat rose again, strong and fast. She quickly turned to leave, afraid he might see the emotion in her eyes. When she reached the gate of the garden, she paused. "You may walk here again tomorrow," she said without turning. "But under guard," Aaron smiled. "That is enough, Your Majesty." She left without another word, but inside her mind his voice stayed. That night, as the stars shone over Valora, Queen Siral stood at her window again. The city lights glowed beneath her, yet her thoughts were far away with the human in the garden. She placed a hand over her chest and felt the same racing beat. She had faced battles, led fleets, and made hard choices. Yet this simple human had unsettled her in ways no war ever had. She did not yet understand why, but she knew one truth with quiet certainty. The human had come into her world by chance, yet his presence was changing her heart, and perhaps in time the fate of both their species. Days passed in the crystal city of Atheris, and Aaron's strength returned quickly. He had been given a private room in the palace, but Siral allowed him to walk in the palace gardens each day. The gardens were filled with glowing flowers, soft streams, and crystal statues that reflected the light of the twin suns. The place was peaceful, almost like a small world inside the city, untouched by war. Aaron walked carefully among the streams, observing the plants. Some of them pulsed softly as if they had a heartbeat. He reached down and touched one, fascinated by the energy flowing through it. A Valari healer approached and watched silently. "You learn quickly," she said. "Most humans are afraid of these plants. They are alive in a way you cannot control." Aaron smiled faintly. "Fear is useless when you need to understand. If you want to survive here, you must study everything." The healer nodded and left him to explore. Aaron's curiosity reminded Siral of herself. She had spent years studying Valari history, science, and combat, learning to protect her people. And now she realized the human was doing the same in her world. Siral came to the garden that evening. She had chosen to wear simple robes of silver and blue, blending with the light of the sunset. She watched Aaron from a distance, noting how he moved carefully, almost respectfully among the plants and streams. She felt her chest tighten slightly, the same strange heartbeat that had started when she first saw him in the forest. "Do you always move so quietly?" she asked as she approached. Aaron looked up and smiled. "I do not want to disturb the garden. It is alive. Unlike cities or war zones, it does not fight back. I prefer it this way." Siral nodded. "Humans rarely treat life with such care. They are quick to destroy, quick to conquer. You are different." Aaron shrugged. "I have learned that destruction does not bring strength. Only understanding does." The queen felt a pull toward him she did not understand. She walked beside him, silent for a moment. the soft glow of the flowers reflected in her golden eyes. "You seem to understand many things," she said. "Even about life that is not your own." Aaron looked at her. "I have had to understand. Survival demands it. Every choice, every step can make the difference between life and death. Perhaps your people know this too." Saral considered his words. She had grown up in the palace, trained as a leader from a young age. She knew survival, strategy, and discipline. But this human spoke with a calm wisdom that made her pause. She had never met a being who could face danger with such honesty, and yet maintain such humility. As the sun set, the two walked toward a small fountain at the center of the garden. The water was clear, glowing faintly with crystal energy. Aaron reached out and touched it. He marveled at the way it shimmered, bending light in ways that made the streams look alive. "This is beautiful," he said quietly. Saral stood beside him. "It is. Our people protect this garden for generations. It is one of the few places untouched by war." Aaron turned to her. "I am glad to see beauty in this world. War has shown me so little of it." Saral studied him closely. His eyes reflected the water's glow, and she felt the strange heartbeat in her chest grow stronger. She stepped back slightly, unsure why. "You are very human," she said softly, "and yet different from the humans I have known in battle." "I try to be," he said with a small smile. "War does not bring out the best in anyone." They continued to speak until the first stars appeared in the sky. Aaron told her stories of Earth, of mountains that reached beyond clouds, of oceans so vast they seemed to have no end, of forests filled with life and sounds that could calm even the hardest hearts. Saral listened intently, imagining the blue planet as he described it. "You speak of peace as if it is real," she said. "It is," he said. "If we choose it, we can find it." The Queen's mind turned over his words. Could peace truly exist between humans and Valari? She had never seen it, not in all the years of war. But here, with Irene, she felt a spark of hope that she had long forgotten. Meanwhile, within the palace, whispers spread. Some Valari nobles had begun to question why the Queen allowed a human such freedom. They spoke in low voices of betrayal, of danger, of loyalty to their kind. Saral ignored the whispers. She knew her choice was unusual, but she trusted her judgment. She had always been the ruler of her people, and she had always chosen what was best, even when others doubted her. A few days later, Aaron was allowed to assist the palace engineers in repairing one of their scanning drones. The machine had been damaged during a patrol, and the engineers had been unable to fix it. Aaron studied the broken device, carefully examining its crystal energy circuits. He spoke quietly to the Valari engineers. "If you connect these nodes here, the energy flow will stabilize. The signal should work." The engineers exchanged cautious glances, then followed his instructions. When the machine hummed to life, glowing brightly with energy, the engineers bowed in respect. Saral watched from a distance, her golden eyes softening. The human had done what her best engineers could not because he was stronger, but because he saw the world differently. "You show skill and patience," she said when she approached him later. "I have had to," he replied. "Life requires it, and war teaches it quickly." Saral nodded. She felt her pulse quicken. Each time he spoke, it was as if the rhythm of her heart changed. She had ruled her people for years without fear or hesitation. Yet here, with a human, she felt something new. A connection she could not explain. The next evening, Aaron returned to the garden alone. He had been allowed more freedom now that he had proven his usefulness and trustworthiness. The night air was cool, and the soft glow of the crystal flowers lit his path. He walked slowly, thinking about the Queen and her strange kindness. She had given him freedom, treated him with respect, and listened to his stories. He did not know why, but he felt that something important was happening. Saral appeared silently from behind a row of glowing shrubs. She had come to watch him again, though she pretended otherwise. "You enjoy the quiet here?" she said softly. "I do," he replied. "It is calm. No battle, no alarms, just life." She stepped closer. It is rare to see life without fear in a world at war. Aaron nodded. Perhaps life itself is stronger than fear. It survives, even in darkness. For a long moment they stood together by the fountain. The water reflected the twin moons, and their reflections shimmered like silver light. Saral's hand brushed against her own chest as her heartbeat raced. She quickly turned away, embarrassed by the feeling she could not control. "I should return," she said. "Will I see you again?" He asked quietly. "Yes," she said after a pause. "Tomorrow, in the garden." As she left, Aaron smiled faintly. He had survived battles, crashes, and injuries, yet now he faced a new challenge, understanding the Valari Queen and the strange trust she had shown him. That night, Saral could not sleep. She stood by the palace window, looking out at the glowing city. Her thoughts returned to the human, to his calm voice, to the way he had touched her world without trying. She realized something. The first time she had caught his scent in the forest, it had awakened a feeling she could not yet name. She placed a hand over her chest. The heartbeat that had startled her in the forest was still there, steady and strong. She did not yet understand it, but she knew it was important. The human had come into her life unexpectedly, and she could feel the beginning of something that might change the future of her people and his. The first connection had been made. A bridge between two worlds had begun to form, quiet but powerful. The crystal city of Atheris was alive with movement as the Valari prepared for the daily council meeting. High above, the twin suns cast soft light on towers and bridges, and the hum of energy from the crystal core filled the city with a constant vibration. In the palace, Queen Saral walked the halls with calm authority, though her mind was heavy. The recent days had been filled with discovery and quiet connection with the human, Aaron. She had allowed him to walk in the gardens, help the engineers, and speak freely. He had shared stories of Earth, of humanity's strength and creativity, and she had listened, fascinated. Yet the palace walls whispered another truth. Some Valari nobles did not approve. The council had grown restless. Several nobles whispered of disloyalty. They had noticed Saral's unusual leniency toward the human, and began plotting in secret. "He has already influenced the palace," one whispered to another. "The queen spends more time with him than with her own people." "The humans cannot be trusted," another said. "They come to spy, to steal, to betray. If she continues to favor him, our people will be in danger." These whispers reached Saral's ears sooner than they expected. She stood in the council chamber, facing the assembled nobles. Her voice was calm but firm. "The human is under my protection. He is not a spy, and he has shown loyalty in all actions." A noble stepped forward. "Your Majesty, with respect, we fear deception. The human may hide his true intent. Let us examine him thoroughly before placing him above caution." Saral's golden eyes narrowed slightly. "He is not above caution. He is being observed. Yet I will not allow fear to dictate justice. We will judge actions, not whispers." A few nobles exchanged frustrated looks, but none dared speak further. Saral's authority was clear. Yet beneath the calm, she felt unease. She knew her choice was risky. The human had survived accidents and war because of luck and skill, and now he was influencing her people in ways she could not ignore. Later that day, Aaron walked through the palace gardens, enjoying the quiet of the glowing flowers and the soft hum of the streams. He had been allowed to explore more of the city under supervision, yet he preferred the peace of the garden. He thought about the council meeting he had overheard accidentally, about the tension among the Valari nobles, and about Saral. She had saved his life, trusted him, and even shared her thoughts with him. As he walked, he felt a presence behind him. Saral appeared, her robes glowing softly in the afternoon light. "You seem troubled," she said. "I heard whispers in the council," he replied. "Some of your people do not trust me," Saral sighed quietly. "There is always doubt. Some fear change. Others fear the human presence here. Yet their actions will reveal truth." Aaron nodded. "I want to help, but I do not know how to protect you or your people from those who oppose peace." Saral placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "You do not need to protect me. We will face this together. Your courage will guide them as much as mine will." The two stood silently for a moment, feeling the warmth of the soft sunlight. There was trust in their silence, a bond that had formed through quiet words and shared understanding. Yet outside the walls, the first seeds of betrayal were growing. That evening, the council gathered again. The nobles who opposed Aaron's presence devised a plan. They would accuse him of planting a device to call human reinforcements. Such an accusation would force the queen to act publicly, and if their claim succeeded, Aaron would be executed. The next day, the palace prepared for a public ceremony. Citizens of Atheris gathered in the central plaza, crystal towers reflecting sunlight across the crowds. Aaron stood beside Saral under the open sky, unsure of what was about to happen. A noble stepped forward, his voice loud and clear. "People of Valora, we have discovered evidence that this human has betrayed us. He has placed a beacon to summon human forces to attack our world. Your queen's mercy may endanger all of us." Gasps rose from the crowd. Murmurs of fear and anger spread. Aaron's heart beat fast, but he did not show fear. He looked to Saral. She remained calm, her golden eyes shining. "Is this true?" she asked, her voice steady. The noble hesitated. "We have proof, Your Majesty." The human's ship carried a device designed to signal human reinforcements. He must be judged immediately. Saral studied Aaron. He had not moved. He did not deny the claim with anger or panic. Instead, he spoke with quiet strength. "I did not carry any device to harm your people. I came to learn, to survive, and to share understanding. If you doubt me, judge my actions, not your fear." The queen considered this. She had learned to read truth in the eyes of her people and in the eyes of Aaron. He was honest, courageous, and calm even in danger. Yet she knew the accusation could not be ignored. Suddenly, the plaza shook. An explosion erupted from the outer edge of the city. Dust rose and pieces of crystal fell from nearby buildings. The nobles gasped in panic, realizing the chaos could destroy lives. Aaron acted immediately. He ran toward the source of danger, dodging falling debris and helping citizens to safety. Saral followed, her own heart racing as she moved through the chaos. A fragment of crystal fell toward her. Aaron leaped, pushing her aside, and the crystal shattered harmlessly. His own arm was grazed, but he continued to guide people to safety. The true traitors revealed themselves in the chaos. Several nobles had planted the device to frame Aaron and force the queen to act against him. Citizens witnessed the treachery, seeing the human's bravery and the nobles' deceit. When the dust settled, the nobles were arrested. The city council, shocked by the events, bowed to the queen's judgment. Aaron stood among the citizens, his calm courage having exposed the truth. Saral approached him. "You saved many lives today, human. Your actions spoke louder than accusations." Aaron shook his head. "I only did what I could. You taught me to survive, to understand. I followed that lesson." The queen placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. Her heartbeat, already unusual around him, now raced faster. She had faced countless dangers, yet no threat had ever shaken her like this human's courage and honesty. That night, the city celebrated quietly, grateful for the safety that had been restored. Yet for Saral, the true victory was deeper. She realized that her feelings for the human were no longer a mystery. They were admiration, respect, and something more. Her heart had recognized a bond beyond war, a connection that could change the future. Aaron, in his room, reflected on the day. He had faced danger, confusion, and the distrust of an entire world. Yet he had survived because he had acted with honesty and courage. He had shown the Velari that humans were not only warriors but beings capable of honor and compassion. The next morning, Saral walked to the garden and found Aaron waiting. They spoke quietly, exchanging thoughts about trust, courage, and the events of the previous day. Saral finally allowed herself to acknowledge the truth. The first moment she had smelled his scent in the forest had been the start of this bond. Every moment since had strengthened it. "You are not like the humans we have fought," she said. "I am still human," he replied, "but perhaps that is enough to show you we can be more than enemies." The queen smiled faintly. The connection between them had survived the test of betrayal and danger. She understood that peace required courage, trust, and understanding from both sides, and she knew that together, they could begin to build a bridge between their peoples. As night fell over Atheris, Saral stood at her window, looking at the glowing city. Aaron had survived betrayal, danger, and fear, and in doing so he had begun to show the Velari the true strength of humanity. Her heart, once reserved for duty alone, now carried a quiet hope. The storm of betrayal had passed, but the bond between human and queen had grown stronger, ready to face the challenges that lay ahead. The city of Atheris was quiet under the twin suns glowing softly in gold and blue. After the betrayal of the nobles, the palace had regained order. Queen Siral walked along the high crystal terraces, her mind focused on the future. The war that had lasted for decades could finally be put behind them, if both sides were willing to try. Aaron stood beside her. He had recovered fully from his injuries and now moved freely in the palace. Though he was still an outsider, the citizens had begun to see him as a symbol of courage and honor. Many of them whispered about the human who had risked his life to save the queen and expose treachery. "You look at the city differently now," Siral said softly. Her golden eyes reflected the sunlight, warm yet thoughtful. "I see possibility," Arin replied. "Not only for your people but for mine. We have both seen enough war. Perhaps now we can build something better together." Siral nodded. "It will not be easy. There are still those who fear change, who remember the destruction. We do not have to erase the past to create the future," Aaron said. "We only need courage to move forward step by step." The queen smiled faintly. She had faced countless battles, guided fleets, and led her people through crises. Yet this human's simple wisdom struck deeper than any strategy or command. She realized that strength was not only in power, but in hope and understanding. In the weeks that followed, Siral opened talks with human envoys. Aaron was allowed to participate, speaking honestly about human intentions and capabilities. He emphasized that humans came not to conquer but to learn, to trade knowledge, and to prevent further war. The Valari listened closely. The queen's trust in the human gave weight to his words. Slowly, barriers began to fall. Discussions turned into agreements, and agreements began to form the first fragile plans for cooperation between humans and Valari. During these meetings, Siral often observed Aaron quietly. She noticed the way he treated everyone with respect, the calm confidence in his voice, and the patience he had even when the negotiations grew tense. The queen felt a deep admiration for him, mixed with a warmth she could not yet fully explain. One evening, after a long day of discussions, Siral and Aaron returned to the palace gardens. The glowing flowers illuminated the path, casting soft reflections on the crystal fountains. "You have changed many minds today," she said. "I only spoke the truth," he replied. "Sometimes that is enough to make people listen." Siral walked beside him. "The truth can be dangerous. It can expose lies and betrayal. But it can also build bridges," Aaron nodded. "Then we will keep building, one step at a time." They stood in front of the central fountain, water flowing softly, lights reflecting like stars. Siral looked at him for a long moment. "You remind me that humanity is more than just survival. It is creativity, courage, and the desire to understand. And you remind me that the Valari are more than warriors," Aaron said. "You are wise, patient, and willing to see beyond fear." Their eyes met, and for the first time they both acknowledged the bond that had grown between them. It was not only trust and respect, but a connection that went deeper, born from courage, honesty, and shared hope. The following days were filled with work and progress. Humans and Valari engineers worked side by side, combining their knowledge to build Unity Dawn, a space station orbiting both Earth and Valora. The station would serve as a hub for trade, communication, and scientific research. It was the first tangible sign that peace could be possible. Aaron often spent hours in the station's construction yard, guiding human engineers and Valari technicians. He showed them how to blend human technology with Valari energy crystals, creating devices that were stronger and more efficient than anything either species had built alone. Siral visited frequently. She would watch quietly as he explained techniques, adjusted machines, and solved problems with calm determination. Her heart still raced when she saw him, but she accepted it as part of the strange connection between them. She began to understand that this bond, born in the forest months ago, had grown into something that could change their worlds. One morning, as they walked through the gardens before a council meeting, Aaron spoke quietly. "I have never felt so welcomed in an alien world before. You have given me trust and your people have accepted it." "You earned it," Siral said softly, "not by strength alone but by your actions. You have shown honor, courage, and wisdom. That is rare in any world." Aaron smiled faintly. "Then perhaps humanity and Valari can learn from each other. Perhaps we can create something better." Siral nodded. "We will. Together." The council meeting that followed was the first where humans and Valari spoke openly as partners rather than enemies. Plans for trade, research, and joint defense were discussed. The atmosphere was tense at first, but the calm guidance of Siral and Aaron helped ease doubts. Nobles who had once opposed Aaron's presence began to see his value and the wisdom in the Queen's choice. By the end of the meeting, a unanimous agreement was reached. Unity Dawn would be built, and for the first time both species had a shared goal that did not involve war. The citizens of Atheris cheered quietly in the plaza, understanding that a new era had begun. That night, Aaron and Siral returned to the garden. The twin moons rose over the city, casting silver light over the glowing flowers. They walked together in silence, feeling the quiet strength of the moment. "You have changed everything here," Siral said finally. "Not only for your people, but for mine. The trust and courage you have shown will be remembered for generations." "And you have shown me the power of understanding," Aaron replied. "You risked much to see the truth in me and to protect me." "That is courage beyond battle," Siral smiled. "Perhaps the strongest courage is not in combat, but in the willingness to trust even when the world doubts you." They stopped by the central fountain, water flowing softly. Aaron looked into the shimmering surface. "This place feels like hope," he said quietly. "It is," Siral replied, "and hope is what will carry us forward." For a long time they stood together, watching the lights of the city and the flowing water. Words were not needed. They shared understanding, trust, and a bond that had grown through danger, courage, and honesty. In the weeks that followed, the station Unity Dawn began to take shape. Humans and Valari worked together, sharing skills, knowledge, and ideas. Aaron guided teams in blending technology, while Siral oversaw the harmony and cooperation of her people. The project became a symbol of what could be achieved when both sides trusted each other. During the construction, Siral often found herself walking with Aaron in quiet moments. They spoke about Earth, Valora, and the future they hoped to create. She realized that the bond formed from that first encounter in the forest had grown into something deeper, a friendship, trust, and quiet affection that bridged the gap between their worlds. One evening, they stood on a terrace overlooking the city, watching the twin suns set in golden and blue light. "You changed my world," Siral said softly. "You changed mine as well," Aaron replied. "You showed me that even in a world at war, understanding and hope are possible." Siral placed her hand gently on the railing, close to his. The warm connection between them reminded her that the first moment she had caught his scent in the forest had been only the beginning. Over time, that moment had grown into trust, respect, and a bond that could shape the future. The city lights of Atheris glowed beneath them. Beyond the horizon, Unity Dawn's first modules were being assembled in orbit, a sign that the long years of war were giving way to cooperation. The Queen and the humans stood together, symbols of a new era. As the moons rose high, Siral turned to Aaron. "Do you think our peoples will accept this peace?" "They already are," he said with quiet confidence. "It takes courage to trust, but once they see what we can build together, they will choose it." Siral nodded, feeling her heart steady now. The strange racing she had felt since that first encounter in the forest had transformed. It was no longer confusion or fear, but a deep sense of hope and connection. "You have given me more than I ever imagined," she said. "And you have given me a new world," Aaron replied. Together, they stood beneath the twin moons, watching the glowing city and the stars beyond. Two species, once enemies, now shared a vision of cooperation and peace. Two hearts from different worlds had formed a connection that would endure beyond war. The story of Aaron and Siral became a symbol for both humans and Valari. It proved that courage, honesty, and understanding could overcome fear and hatred. Their bond was a bridge between two civilizations, a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope and unity could prevail. The human and the Queen turned back toward the palace, ready to face the future together. The city of Atheris glowed around them, a shining testament to what was possible when trust replaced fear, courage replaced doubt, and hearts were open to connection. And so a new era began, born from the courage of one human and the wisdom of one queen. The bond between them would inspire generations, showing that even in the vastness of space, humanity's strength lay not only in survival, but in hope, understanding, and the ability to bridge worlds.